All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are looking at something that is absolutely fascinating in the world of artificial intelligence. We're unpacking the energetic paradigm's function 19, which is workflow and path formation. But here's the key. We aren't looking at this as some abstract philosophical concept. No, we're examining it as concrete, highly investable infrastructure for reliable AI work. So, let's dive right in and see exactly how this works under the hood. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with the AI structure problem, define EP function 19, and then look at the demand, the actual market pain. After that, we'll cover execution via the controlled path, scalability through repeatable enterprise modules, and finally, we'll wrap up with the investable EP capability itself. All right, Section 1, the AI structure problem, the limit of fluent generation. To really grasp the value of this function, we first have to recognize a massive recurring failure happening in complex AI deployments today. Think about the stark contrast between casual AI and serious organizations. Look, a casual chatbot, it can totally tolerate loose reasoning. If it hallucinates a weird ingredient in a dinner recipe, it's no big deal, right? But when you're deploying AI in high-stakes enterprise environments, you absolutely cannot tolerate uncontrolled generation. It's just too risky. These environments demand structurally reliable work that can survive intense scrutiny. They need workflows that are repeatable, auditable, and above all, safe.
Moving on to Section 2, defining EP function 19, from intention to controlled workflow.
This brings us directly to the solution. And it's all about treating AI output not as some kind of magic trick, but as a disciplined operational process. So what is workflow and path formation? It's the EP function that turns an intention into a strict sequence of controlled steps, outputs, checks, transitions, and feedback loops. It's not a cosmetic add-on. It's not a formatting trick or just basic process management. It is a fundamental operating function that changes how a task is framed before the answer is produced, how it's checked while it's being produced, and how the output is judged after the fact.
Which naturally leads us to a really vital question. Why is the market demanding this capability right now? Because let's be real, an elegant function only becomes an investable asset if it solves a bleeding neck problem. So let's look at the market timing.
Section 3. Demand. The market pain. The cost of uncontrolled generation.
Demand really skyrockets when a repeated failure becomes simply too expensive for enterprises to ignore. We are talking about high-consequence environments here. Things like enterprise strategy, investor due diligence, contract and legal review, complex governance systems, massive research pipelines, and autonomous agent execution. As AI moves from casual experimental conversations into these high-value workflows, mistakes don't just result in a funny screenshot on social media. They create massive costs, delays, huge liability, reputational risk, and downright operational failure. This dramatically spikes the demand for strict operational boundaries.
The reality is, buyers need less persuasive text and way more structurally reliable work. The market pain isn't a lack of words, right? Models can spit out thousands of words a second. What serious organizations desperately need are outputs that decision makers, lawyers, engineers, and investors can actually audit and trust. They need methods that completely rein in ambiguity and uncontrolled expansion long before they turn into a serious business risk.
Okay, Section 4, execution, the control path, performing under pressure.
Now, demand is absolutely nothing without execution, and execution requires a strict, highly inspectable path. Here's how it plays out. First, input is transformed into a clear representation. This exposes the real object of work. Then comes analysis and deduction, where the reasoning path is made entirely inspectable rather than being hidden inside a bunch of fluent language. After generating the output, it goes through a strict review against structure, not just style. And crucially, it ends with correction and reuse. Failure isn't just quietly edited away, it is classified and leveraged to improve the very next cycle. This fundamentally changes the actual quality of the work by making it more inspectable, correctable, and reusable. Think about it. A standard proposal goes through this function, and its structure becomes vastly clearer and investable. Agreements become infinitely safer because hidden contradictions are immediately exposed. Workflows become deeply repeatable because the path and correction rules are made explicit. And governance? It stops being a collection of empty slogans and actually starts defining real operational constraints. This is how you prove execution traction, through better boundaries and far stronger deduction.
Let's look at Section 5, scalability, repeatable enterprise modules.
expanding without losing control.
Any seasoned investor knows that scalable value comes from a repeatable mechanism, not from isolated, one-off consulting brilliance. And workflow and path formation scales precisely because it can be embedded as a repeatable module across entirely different domains. You can literally take this function and turn it into document-to-media workflows, templates, software quality gates, agent operations and orchestration, enterprise copilots, or even business planning workflows. It's got a crystal-clear path toward productization that does not limit it to just one single industry.
And that's because, while the surface content changes, the underlying structural failure remains exactly the same. The energetic paradigm isn't claiming that this function magically owns every domain on Earth. What it's saying is that any domain using AI for complex tasks is eventually going to hit this exact structural wall, the desperate need for controlled paths over fluent generation. This is what makes this capability a truly universal operating standard.
Section 6. The investable EP capability. Connecting pain, method, and logic.
So, this brings us to our final evaluation of why this specific capability warrants strategic investment. The energetic paradigm connects a very real market pain, born from the failure of ordinary AI in serious deployments. It connects that demand to an executable method that operates securely inside real tasks. And finally, it ties both of those to a highly scalable product logic, proving it can act as a repeatable operating component. In short, it absolutely nails its value across our entire investor rubric.
Ultimately, we arrive at this core truth. Workflow and path formation isn't just another content tool. It is the fundamental, bedrock infrastructure required to make AI work safe, auditable, and operationally powerful. It's investable because it converts a recurring, expensive AI failure, which is uncontrolled generation without a reliable path, into a repeatable EP capability that thoroughly proves demand, execution, and scalability. So as you look at AI deployment in your own spheres, I want to leave you with this thought. Is your organization just generating persuasive text? Or are you actually building a controlled, structurally reliable path to real work? Take some time to think about that. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.